No, I changed it.
Okay, that's really loud. Yeah, go back.
What a great feature, huh?
Holy
Zoom
cow.
has that it could block that out. My
Okay, now it sounds
vocal
good.
coach, when I work with my vocal coach,
Okay.
she's like, turn on original sound. She needs that because otherwise you lose certain pitches. So yeah,
You have a vocal
awesome.
for, you have for singing? Are you a singer too? Is that why?
Um, just yeah, for both, just something I've always wanted. I've always loved to sing my whole life. And so I met her a few months ago on Instagram, and I'm like, you know what? It'd be great to actually have some lessons. And
Uh,
wow, what a difference it makes. So,
wow.
but so bringing it to
Okay.
singing, but really bringing it also to podcasting or to any time that I'm talking. Mhm. So what you learn of like how to use everything and how to like stretch. Oh, I forgot to do my stretches. Yeah. How to open up your vocal cords more. So interesting stuff.
Does that
And
allow
sing some
you
songs.
does that allow you to pronunciate words better too, or what is the main purpose
Maybe
for
I
for speaking for that it does helps with?
tone and I'd say not over stressing. I think a lot of times
Mm.
people don't realize that they're speaking from here as opposed to from their root, from their stomach, from your breath.
Well, that gets you more in touch with your body, which is
Yeah,
what presence
exactly.
is all about, right? That's really neat.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So.
Learn something new before we even press play. Um, so I love that a couple like you put in there unlearning our parents and owning what we actually believe, and then you also put why couples become unfulfilled and how to break free from unconscious relationship roles. Like I have never touched specifically on those things, and that's exactly what this like podcast is geared towards. So I'm going to touch on those topics just so you
Yeah,
know. Okay.
great. Cool. Let's
I'm
flow
super
with
curious.
it. I did a podcast yesterday, so I'm pretty warmed up in the juices of it. So, um, yeah, awesome.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Beautiful.
And
Well,
you post the videos too, or this is just for us?
I actually just started showcasing YouTube videos. I
Okay.
have them all, but they're
Okay.
all up now and stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna start trying to show that more. It's just more
Okay.
work to do the clips through videos and stuff. So I still do sound clips. It's a lot of work running a podcast, and and when it's kind of it's like a secondary piece to the business, but it's a lot of fun. I love it, and people. The biggest thing I get, and then we'll start, is from my listeners is they're like, I just try to take away one piece from listening, right? Because we get engulfed with so much information. And it's so funny how different pieces each person gets. I think, oh, someone's going to resonate with this specific thing that Anat just said, right? And then nobody resonates with that. And it's like 13 other things that they resonated with. It's just, again, it's the whole thing. Everybody's different perspective. I just
Yeah.
get so curious and I love it. So, let me ask you, Nat, when you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that like makes your heart just sing out loud for the day that just truly speaks to your heart and makes it just want to bounce out of the chest for the day coming ahead of you?
Probably looking over at my fiance, being so
Mm.
grateful to have such a wonderful partner in my life. Yeah. Yeah. And
That's
those morning snuggles.
what about the mornings that he's on a trip or something?
Oh, if anything, he doesn't. I'm the one that's on the trips. I'm the one that
Oh,
leaves
okay.
a lot.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh yeah,
Cool.
like I'm heading to Colorado to lead a retreat. I'll be like, babe, I'm gone for 2 weeks. Enjoy. So yeah.
Oh, you're going to lead a retreat out there. So I wanted the first thing I wanted to say was like me personally, I'm truly grateful for people like you that do what you do. Just like the impacting lives just incredibly with your training camp for the soul, which is an amazing name, by the way.
Thank
Training
you.
camp for the soul. It sounds like a book course. Like it's really good. But what I wanted to say was there was a biggest reason why I started this podcast was try to impact other people. And so when I see somebody else like yourself doing that and creating it and creating such powerful, like I was reading through everything, and this is super, super powerful stuff that you're doing. Just wanted to express my gratitude for that. One of the things that Anat put in the message to me was about unlearning our parents and owning what we actually believe. This is where I want to start, because with this, maybe we'll go into a story or whatever, but unlearning our parents and owning what we actually believe. What did we learn about our parents first? Like, what do you mean by unlearning? Like, we have to learn something new, or do we have to get rid of something? What does that mean?
Yeah. So everything as a baby, right? You're a sponge. You're learning everything from mom and dad. Everything is an imprint. So if you grew up in Ethiopia, you learned to eat with what? Your fingers, your hands, right? If you grew
Right.
up in China, you learned to eat with chopsticks. And if you grew up here in the US, it's with a fork and a spoon and a knife. And so if you moved to China, you look and be like, why are people using these sticks, or why are people eating with their hands? And so similar to that, everything that we learn is just based on whatever was modeled to us by mom and dad. And hopefully those of you listening, got a lot of good learning. What I mean by good is functional learning, learning that helps you function well as an adult, especially in areas like your ability to set limits and boundaries with yourself and others, your ability to know what you need and want, give yourself what you need and want, and express what you need and want, your self-esteem, your ability to take responsibility, and your ability to connect to yourself and your own internal experience and your emotions, and your ability to connect with other humans. And so these are what I call like the 5 subjects that you depended on, as well as a bunch of other things to learn from mom and dad that really impact our ability to operate in this world as adults. Not just I'm an adult because I'm over the age of 18, but because we know many adults that are adults and still act like kids, but be functional. And that's what it is. Because when it's dysfunctional, then the behavior does show up like, wow, this 35-year-old is acting like a 5-year-old. How did that happen?
And we have to, well, what's there's so much to so many directions to go with that, and totally. So the direction that I am choosing to go first, you just got engaged and would like to have kids. We talked about that before we pressed record on the podcast. Do you, in your mind, I'm sure you do, play like, here's things I'm going to say, here's things that I'm going to role model? Do you have anything specific that you could think of that maybe has played through your mind for when you do have your children, that you plan on like implementing? I'm curious.
For sure. And here's the thing. If I wasn't practicing it myself and living it myself and embodying it, I could think all day long of what I intend and hope to do, and it probably won't happen. And the reason is that most of the time what's operating is your subconscious mind. Right now, we're on this podcast. You don't have to think about breathing or, moving, or if you're to sip a bit of your drink, you don't have to think about, pick up glass, sip, swallow. So there's things that become automatic for us. And how your children are learning from you is by what they see, what they hear, and what they feel energetically, whether it's how you made them feel or how you feel about yourself. And so to me, the only way that I know that I can guarantee passing the best things on to my kids is making sure that I'm doing that I am the role model for that I am embodying that. So taking this time right now to always practice of getting that I already have a child. It's my inner child. And those of you that are parents, you have another child. And those of you that are not, you have an inner child. And how you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you operate with yourself is what your child is going to learn. And so I'll give you an example of where I imagine mothers have really good intentions of teaching their kids the best. Like, I'm going to be there for my kids. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to be present with them, take care of what they need, unconditionally love them, which is great. But I'm going to sacrifice myself and not take time for me, internally be fully stressed out. And what the child learns is always keep busy, put others first. Your needs don't matter. Because energetically, they feel the stress from mom. They feel that overwhelm from mom, and that mom is not filling her cup first and then coming and giving to her children. So this is an example where you can have all the good intentions, but are you taking care of yourself? Are you taking care of your own inner child? How are you speaking to yourself? Are you telling your child, you can do anything, you're great, but then you have self-doubt? So
Yeah, I really like how you phrase that, because you know, we even do this, like, and of course you understand that, non-parenting, right? Just like saying, like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be this person, I'm going to, but then, or I'm going to help this, and then you're not actually embodying it, right? Or you're actually not doing the actions that it takes to be that person or do that thing. So I love how you said, I want to reiterate that about, I'm going to be this type of parent for my child. I'm going to love them fully. I'm going to give them every opportunity I possibly can. If they flip that around and change the language to, like, am I loving myself fully already? Am I giving myself every opportunity possible? Am I giving myself me time? Like, I want to give my children their alone time to, because that's, like you said, the reflection, that's powerful
yeah,
stuff. So whatever
yeah,
you feel like
yeah.
you want to give to your children, are you already giving that to yourself? Is the
Mhm.
question that we probably
Yeah.
should start with.
Yes, exactly. I tell people that my
Wow.
program is it's going to prepare you for parenthood. Or if you are a parent, it's going to make you a better parent. But it is that. It's like, oh, welcome, meet your inner child. The work begins now, the opportunity begins now. And the thing is, for kids, they're looking for that congruency. So if you're getting pushback at times, it's because you're saying one thing, but you're modeling something else. And they're gonna go with what you're modeling,
is
especially if they see it, hear it, feel it.
is this a, well, let me ask you this first, because this is the question that popped in my mind. Do you watch your language personally with words you use? Because you talked about it a tiny bit through it when you were mentioning this stuff. Um, do you have awareness around that, or do you use certain statements, purposely not use certain statements? Do you
Absolutely. I
really?
gotta say though, I have a potty mouth.
That's okay.
So to not, I'm like to not, I grew up on the East Coast, to not use curse words. It's like, what do you mean? It's like part of the language. So haven't mastered that part yet, but absolutely when it comes to like negations. So don't and I correct my fiance all the time. We do it jokingly. He'll say, don't forget to pick up chicken at the store before you come home. And I'll say, what? I'm sorry, I don't understand. I don't have that in my vocabulary. He's like, remember to pick up the chicken. Like, how much are we saying, don't forget? And then what you're actually programming in is more of that, because the brain doesn't understand negations. So it hears forget, doesn't hear the don't.
Yeah.
And so I'm huge on that.
Wow.
Like I
Can you give me a couple
definitely
more
pick up.
examples? That's really,
Yeah. So especially in my program, when my clients create new affirmations, right? When they become aware of a limiting belief and they do my process to clear that out, and then they have room to declare a new affirmation, a declaration, and they'll say, they'll say it as a negation. They'll say, I am I am not afraid. And so if that's the command that you're giving yourself, if that's the new edit to the script of your life that now you're telling the actor to play, they're they're going to freeze. They're going to say, I don't know what to do with this. Instead, well, if you're not afraid, then what are you? I'm courageous. So
which is
it's
way more
amazing.
powerful when you say it out loud like that.
Well, like, it's powerful because it brings someone into a world of possibilities of how to behave. Whereas if I say to you, I am no longer afraid, what comes to mind as like a next behavior action? Not much. And it's such a pattern in our society of speaking in negation that, yeah, we work a lot on that. It's like I said,
I'm so glad I
it's
asked you
been an
this question because
ongoing joke.
yeah. So,
You'll start to become aware of it for sure.
well, so in your fiance, did he have to get used to that, or at first, I'm curious, was he like, all right, stop, or you were like, sorry, this is what I'm going to be doing. You gotta.
He's learned. He's gotten much better, and it's such a friendly way to do it.
Yeah.
But he even did it yesterday as I was leaving. He asked me something. He said it. Don't forget something. And I'm like, what? Sorry. Don't understand. Not in my language.
That's such a good way to do it. That's such a great way to, again, there's great wording there as a response to something that might, I want to say, annoy you about somebody else, right? Or that you don't like seeing in them. It's like, sorry, what? I don't respond. Instead of being like, why do you say that? You should say this instead.
Again, it's another approach that I would also bring to my children of not making them wrong, but giving them the opportunity to see a better way. But our language our words create our world. They really do. And so does our energy, but our words really create our world. And it's such an opportunity that people can take on right now as to slowing down and being mindful of the words that they choose to describe. Even little things like, oh, I'll try picking up a pen. No, that's picking up a pen. Try picking up. So every little word, what it does, and you said this before, you said you use the word powerful, is it diminishes our power. I'll try is there's a little bit of an out in there. We're giving ourselves a back door and out. And so when we cut out what we call soft talk, these words like, and I still say that one, and maybe, possibly, try. When we eliminate that, we eliminate the negations, we gain more power in what we speak into existence.
Other word comes to mind is like, but I'll do it, but I don't really feel like it. Or yeah, that's another one that comes to mind when you say those words. Huh. And it's nice to have someone else to put us in check a little bit. Like I totally would appreciate that as Enneagram 7 type A personality. I'd be like, yeah, put me in check. Like I don't want to use those words. That's cool.
Yeah. And believe me, he puts me in check around other
Sure.
things as well. So, we're growth partners. To me, it's about how much can we reflect to each other from the most loving, compassionate place,
right,
to remember our higher selves and to reconnect with that.
When did you start this journey to connecting with your higher self, or working on that? How long ago?
Like my journey of self-development.
Sure. We could say that. Yeah.
16 years ago. So I've been in the self-development space 16 years.
What triggered it? Was there something that triggered it?
Well, there was always an interest. I was always the friend that girlfriends would come to in high school for advice. God knows what I said to them. I don't know, but whatever it was, it created a peace of mind, a sense of peace for them. And so I considered majoring in psychology, and then the idea of 8 years of schooling was just not what I wanted. But in my early 20s, what led me to embark on self-development was struggles that I had with my mother in our relationship. And we were invited to hear about this program, and I said, yeah, we should do this so that you'll see that I'm right and you're wrong.
I like it.
And so I could say that the trials that I've had with my mom have led me, have birthed my higher self, which is actually really beautiful to see that it all came from my mother.
Yeah, that's the whole idea of things happening for us, right? If we can look at it like that. So you went to this, and did you realize, oh, okay, I guess I'm not as right as about everything that I thought I was with my mom in that event you went to that you mentioned?
Yeah, like that and then some.
Oh wow.
It's really about there was so much unexpressed feelings that I had, and emotions towards my mom or how she was when we were young. And I didn't get to it in that weekend. I didn't get to it for about 8 years. My first 8 years of my self-development journey was doing a lot of mindset cognitive work. And that's good. It's a good start, but it really only gets you to what I call stage 1 of the 5 stages of transformation, which is awareness. And so I wasn't getting deep enough, and the depth is really in our emotions, in our body. That's what's at the root of it. And so it was a lot of awareness, aha moments, and then, oh, I'll just, instead of doing this, I'll do this, which is to me stage 5, which is integration. But I was a lot of times skipping feeling the hurt and the upset that little Anat had when she was a little girl, expressing what I really needed from my mother in those times. And so it was a journey I never gave up on. And in those 8 years, I developed a lot as a coach, and I became very aware, and I knew that this was a field that I wanted to work in, but my life hadn't transformed yet. And it was frustrating.
Wow.
That I call it trimming weeds. It's like, oh my God, you have this great vision and desire for a beautiful garden, but the weeds just keep coming back. And I mean, aside from my mother, I was struggling with major codependency, the idea of being alone, spending time by myself. I just felt this hollow black hole in my mid center. That's all I could describe. It always felt. And so my need to always be with people, or when I was in romantic relationships, the amount that I depended on them to make me feel loved, to fill me up. And as much as they did, they just couldn't, because it's not theirs to do. It's really mine. So a lot of awareness around my patterns and all that, but still never getting to tools that help me actually transform. And so that was like the first 8 years of my self-development experience.
I see. You know, this reminds me of when you hear people say, oh yeah, I'm like that because my dad was like that, or I'm like that because my mom was like that. And then it just ends there.
Mm-hmm.
right? And and I was that way for a while, and I'm then there's the next step of, okay, so what are you going to do about it? Are you going to do anything about it, or is that the way it is? um or are we going to learn something from it, or is that just going to be the way it is? Which is interesting when you look at that, like, because you see it a lot of people. Do you think people like blame a lot of their behavior and who they are, like when I'm using the word blame intentionally, on their parents, and then kind of just leave it the way it is? Do you see that when they come into your course and stuff? Then you're like, well, let me show you that
100%.
we can take
And I let them know
responsibility.
off the bat, they're not quite ready on day, week 1 of the program, but I let them know, mom and dad are not on trial,
Right.
so you don't have to defend them in this. And if I said to them, it's your job, you're responsible, they'd be like, yeah, but dad was an a-hole and mom was not around. They're still in that victimness. Most people are. And what happens when you're a victim is that you're a survivor. And so then you're living life in survival. You're not actually in creation. You're living life constantly trying to avoid that happening again. Uh, what we bring people to is what I call stage 2 of transformation: acceptance and commitment. There's a level of acceptance that people need to take, and some areas that'll be easy to do on your own, and some areas there's going to be so much resistance, because to accept the fact that that was your childhood and that happened between mom and dad, or that dad was like that to you, that dad hit you, that yelled at you, that dad left, means you actually have to open up Pandora's box and feel a whole lot of grief, sadness, anger, all these sensations. And people don't want to feel that. Why don't they want to feel that? Because they label it as painful, as anger, as sad. But what's painful for you, Justin, may not be painful for me. And so what I teach my clients is how to start to relate to your experience at the level of sensation. Let's go below the root. So yeah, at the root of it, what you could see, you imagine that it's painful, that it's scary, that you're angry. But the level below that is, well, what's the visceral, what's the body experience of that? Where are you feeling that sadness, that anger, that fear, that pain? Feeling it in my chest or in my throat. My throat is tight. Okay, we could all now start to relate to that. Oh, I know what throat is tight is like. I don't know what he means by pain, because pain for him may be different for me. So as much as you could describe your experience at the level of sensation. Does it have a size, a temperature, a color, a texture? Is it heavy? Is it hollow? Is it moving? Then you're being with it as what it actually is, which is energy. And your emotions are energy in motion. And when you could be with it at that level without judgment, just observing it as it is, then our bodies are brilliant. Our bodies know how to heal and release that, integrate it back. I'll give you an example. You cut yourself or burn yourself right now, God forbid, you feel what? Pain, right? You think it's the ice or the ointment or the Band-Aid that's doing the healing. It's not. It's your body. And I believe that our bodies are that brilliant, that the reason that there is such a strong sensation is to signal to the body, the brain, oh, this area needs attention, this area needs healing.
Right.
But when it comes to our emotions, well, we've learned to override it with our mind and say, oh, this is painful, I don't want to go there. Or, oh, I'm angry, I don't want to feel that. Or I'm scared, I don't want to feel that. But when you're happy or you're horny, you you don't stop yourself from feeling
You'll
that.
feel those ones, right?
Yeah. And so getting out of the label and more into all it is sensations. And what I've noticed with my clients and myself is when you could be with it at the level of sensation, the body starts to release. And here's are some of the ways that it releases. And some of these things you might have experienced and not known and been like, why is my body doing that? Like shaking, tremoring. Your body starts to shake and tremor. How many times do you say, why am I shaking? Why am I shaking? And then you stop yourself from shaking, thinking it's bad when it's actually your nervous system down regulating and releasing. Yawning. That's why we yawn when we're tired before bed, because our nervous system is down regulating and releasing that excess energy. But I'm talking yawning midday. You got good sleep the night before, everything's good, and I'll see clients and they'll consecutively yawn. So like a matter of 2 minutes, they'll yawn 15 times, and it's releasing that energy. Burping, and I mean consecutive burping. It's another one. Laughing, which is a great one. When clients have laughing attacks, that's great. Crying, of course. People, crying is a very powerful form of release. That's why your little babies do it, to release that extra energy. And then catharsis, screaming, punching. I mean, if you're harboring anger, and you think of the energy of anger and the amount of fire there is in that, how else would anger want to be expressed if not through stomping or punching a pillow or having a good, deep rooted scream?
What are your
So
thoughts
these are
on
just,
it? Yeah. Keep going. I'm sorry. I
uh,
was.
no. So these are just some of the ways that the
Yeah.
body releases. And so what I when I worked with my mentor 7 years ago, and he was a body mind psychologist, I started to learn that mindset actually complicates it. Like it makes it much harder. Why am I feeling this way? What happened with my mom? What happened with my dad? Oh, it's okay, they didn't mean to do that. You're logicking your way out of it. The thing is, you didn't have logic up until the age 7. So it doesn't exist there. It exists in your emotional body, in your energetic body. Something happened, and in that moment, you didn't know how to process that energy, and you stuffed it down, and you created some way to survive it. So mom wasn't giving you what you need. So you said, you know what? I'm just going to step up and I'm going to help mom, instead of knowing, oh, I'm really sad, mommy. Mommy, can you please just play with me, sit down with me, hang out with me? So bringing now the logic to the emotional. So I'm not saying the mind doesn't play a role in this. It does, but secondary to being with whatever sensation, emotion is there, and allowing it to be expressed.
Yeah. It sounds like using your mind as like a magnifying glass, almost like a curious magnifying glass, I would say. Never described it like that, but
here's my metaphor, and you parents will love this one. So Justin, your son or your daughter walks in the room and says,
I'm not even kidding you. I'm not even, the second you said walk, the door open and she's walking in the room. What the? What? Hold on one second. Let me shut my virtual. Oh, cancel. How do I shut off my background? I wanted to get, oh, none. Here we go. God, you can say. Yeah, so there she is.
Hi. Oh my God. Yes. Exciting times.
So
yeah, it's okay.
So I'm wrapping up a podcast here for a little bit. So when I'm all done, I'll come out and say hi. Okay. Okay. I know Mom might be taking a nap, or she might be in the basement. Okay. Please leave me alone over and I'll be back out in a little bit. Can you close it for me, the door? Thank you.
That is so perfect.
That is so bizarre. Yeah, divine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, so imagine your child walks into your room and is like, I mean, she walked in, she was happy. She was like, you could tell that she's okay. Like, right? But if she walked in and she was crying and you said, honey, I'm busy. Or you started to say, Anat, 1 second. Honey, why are you crying? Why are you crying? Tell me why. Well, why? What would happen, most likely?
Oh, she'd keep crying. She would just keep going. Because I'm
Exactly.
crying. Because I'm crying. Like there would be no
Exactly.
logical reason why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want you all to think of your emotions as your inner child. So your emotions are also known as your inner child. So anytime you are feeling upset, sad, angry, anxious, happy, horny, whatever it is, that's your child walking into the room and saying, I'm scared, I'm sad, I'm anxious. And what does that child need in that moment? It needs your presence,
Yeah.
your love, your acceptance, your curiosity, maybe for you to hold your inner child.
Yeah. That's it.
And let that inner child have that experience.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Same thing. So an emotion comes up.
Huh.
Why am I feeling this way? No. Picture your inner child walking to your room. And so the mind, going back to what you said before, the magnifying glass. So imagine it creates a little bit of separation where you are the adult, right? You have conscious, you have logic, you do understand, and you are observing a part of you known as your inner child, your emotions, having this experience. So here's something that happens. Someone will say, well, Anat, I cry all the time. Yeah, I allow myself to cry, but I just keep crying. I think I'm releasing. And I'm like, no. You're indulging. Oh my God. Right? And or anger, where I'm angry and and I'm just more angry. And I call that you're fueling it. You're indulging in it. And so what does that look like? Going back to this metaphor. So your child walks into the room and says, I'm really upset. Sammy didn't want to play with me. And you said, well, that's because you're not good enough. That's because you're not pretty. That's because you don't matter. How would she feel? She would get what? More upset.
Yeah.
And so what happens with the mind is when something triggers you, whether it's you get into a fight with your partner, or you're a client cancels on you or doesn't buy your program, there's a part that gets triggered. There's an emotion there. Are you going to fuel it and now say, see, she doesn't love you, or you're never going to be a success, and all that stuff? And a lot of times it's that has us get stuck and feel like we can't handle feeling this emotion because we just piled on 10 other things to it that are imagined. And so the practice is observe as that kind, loving, curious parent, your inner child having that experience, nothing to add to that experience, just having that experience, and get curious about, where do you feel it? What's the color? What's the temperature? What's the size? And if you could just observe it and be with it and love it, and if it's scary, then picture, like, give yourself a hug. I can't tell you how many successful alpha men I have cracked into finally having that good cry by giving themselves an embrace, a hug. Yeah, like right now, put your hands on your shoulders and say, it's okay, you're safe, I'm here, I love you. Yeah, it's okay that you had that experience. Yeah, I get it. That's what's needed. You practice that with yourself, guess how you're going to be with your kids? More patient, more loving, more present.
Yeah, that was, you articulated that perfectly for me to visualize. That's one that I'll definitely gonna replay and listen to a few times. I think, and then when you use that analogy, it reminds me of that. Even below that one layer is like silence, stillness, peace. Once you go through that, because I feel like that's what happens to the child, right? They slowly dissipate and find peace again, stillness, and then they're off to the races again, like nothing happened.
Exactly. We call that discharge. The body knows how to discharge the charge. And when you can feel safe enough, and I can tell you, like, give your audience a practice of starting to feel safe, to be in your body and let that guide as opposed to the monkey mind, you can move through something in about 90 seconds. You see that with your children. If you don't ask them and you just hold beautiful space for your daughter to have that tantrum, have that cry, it's like 90 seconds or so, maybe a few minutes. And then they're like, okay, cool, let's go play. There's space for something new. It's gone.
Yeah. That's it's like a constant, like I almost want to put reminders in my phone to be more in my body than my mind throughout the day. When you know, like, I think that's really, you just proved it, how important that is for our well-being, right?
Yeah. And I'll say this, if it takes longer for your child to release it or for you, it's because there's resistance there. It's because the monkey mind is taking over. So it's a practice, just like meditation. And if it's like 20 minutes go by and you're like, this is still here, how can this go away? Be like, oh, that's why, because I'm judging it. I'm wanting it to go away instead of just being with it with love, compassion, and curiosity.
What does your meditation practice look like right now?
I do a lot of breath work and a lot of like walking meditations. To me, it really helps, especially the breath, to because it includes the body for me. If I, and not to say when you're meditating you're not breathing, you are, but intentionally doing some breath work technique to ground me into my body, it's quiet.
Are we talking about aggressive breath work? Like I don't, I don't know if that's the right word. Like like that,
So
or are we talking box breathing, or what?
Both, right?
Okay.
It depends, and again, it's like an opportunity to check in that moment. What do I need? Where's my energy at right now?
Okay.
Is it super high that what I need is something that's going to ground me, and just do box breathing and maybe sit on the grass or put my feet, like go barefoot? Or is it heavy and like mucky and I don't want to do this right now, and I need something to like move the energy out a bit, discharge it, where I want to do some heavy breathing, and then it's like you land in this open spaciousness.
Okay, cool. I want to honor your time, so I want to get into this because I'm curious. This is going to shift things a little bit. What is it about breaking free from unconscious relationship roles? What are unconscious relationship roles? Like examples of that.
So your life is a movie,
Okay.
and you are the writer, director, producer, and actor of that movie. The script was mainly written by the time you were 7, and it was inherited, right, from mom and dad by whatever they modeled to you. Mom representing the self, because you were in her for 9 months, and the second you were born, it felt familiar. And so right in that moment, mom is me, I am mom, and that is the bond, and that is the role modeling that happens. And I've seen this with hundreds and hundreds of clients where they can tell me something they're struggling with, and I'll be like, yeah, so was mom like this? Is this what you learned from mom? They'll say, how did you know that? I'm like, because you're talking about yourself. And then dad models the world and others, because the first time he held you, first time you held your children, I imagine you are in ecstasy times 100, right? Like your heart was beating, you were so joyful, you were prideful, I created this. And
Now what?
now what, right? And you held that little one, and he was like, wait, what's this energy? I've never felt this before, but this feels very loving. And in that moment, there's this bond that gets formed with dad of like, this is everything that's not me. This is my world. This is others. This is love. And so father becomes the role model for that. And so if uh, if you're watching dad and mom interact, and maybe they fight a lot, maybe you came from a divorced home, that's going to imprint you with, this is what love looks like. This is what relationship looks like. That's why you see people coming to relationships and accept love that you would look at, be like, why does this person accept this type of abuse? Or for me, my father was a workaholic. So he was always working. He was running a hotel, working 16 hours a day. So until I unlearned this and created new learning for myself, what love was to me is the man is going to be busy with other things and emotionally unavailable. And then I created a way to survive it. My way to survive it from a young age was, when daddy is around, I'll do anything to help him. So when my dad started his own business, started working from home, I would go help dad and separate the papers and do the copies and paper clips and whatever. And I thought that that was me getting time with dad. And so then I looked at my relationships when I started deep diving and exploring this and seeing, oh my God, my high school boyfriend used to sit and play video games. And instead of me being like, hey, dude, I'm going to go home, I would sit there and watch him. I would clean the room. I would make us something to eat, because that was my mother, taking care of those things while dad was busy doing something else called working. And so we learn what roles, like what we need in our movie. Well, this is the script. And so you attract people that fit your script. And so, when you break up with someone or a relationship ends, and then you run into that person, or you see on social media something, and you're like, wow, why couldn't he be like that with me? Why wasn't she like that with me? Why is she like that with that person? Because that person gave him a different role to play, different opportunity to play. And hopefully they get to be themselves, right? So a lot of times the opportunity is to see where you are teaching someone how to treat you.
I would
You are
say, yeah, I would say 98%, I'm going just randomly pulling this, of people are in unconscious relationship roles. Like I would go to almost 99%, because as you say that, I feel like I'm becoming pretty aware with my practice and everything. But there are things as you're talking, I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that maybe that's why I have that perspective. Or yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so it's probably so common and we don't even realize it. And you need people like you and others to help us break free from that and realize Wow. Yeah, that's great. That's I know I
And
didn't mean to
even your
interrupt you.
own
I just had a
roles.
wow.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even your own roles, where you're not being you, you're being your mom. And some of these things will definitely get uncovered, unveiled, unlearned inside of my program or inside of working with someone like myself. And then some things only get healed in love, only get reflected by your partner.
Mm.
And this has been the experience for myself with my fiance that I've been with for 3.5 years. I mean, I've been in this work for 16 years. Oh, I'm very much human. And there were a lot of things that didn't, patterns and roles that I still came into this relationship with. But when you're with the right person, when you're with someone that's also committed um, to looking at themselves, someone that has, I mean, he's not from this industry at all. He's actually in technology, but he had a certain level of a good learning, and some self-development work that he's done, enough consciousness to meet me. Otherwise I wouldn't be with him.
Mm.
And so where we get to challenge each other, we get to reflect to each other, we get to say, why are you talking to me that way? Like, is this really you? And to actually question the way that we behave and we treat each other. And so for those listening that are like, oh my God, I think this is me and my partner, we need to do this work, but I don't know if my partner will do it. Don't worry about your partner. Go do you. You lead. You be that change. You be that model. You be that example. And eventually you will grow. You'll either grow apart, you'll grow together. So this makes me think of a quick story I want to share. This was not even a year and a half ago. I was human, still very much coming
Are you
from
an alien now?
from no, just reminding people that even though I'm a coach and even though I have, great tools and all that, that I'm still very much growing.
Right.
I There were things that I wasn't happy with in how, my fiance was being, but I didn't see that I wasn't communicating my needs.
Mm.
And when I started to, he was like, this is the first time I'm hearing it. He's like, you're the one keeping yourself in the box, not me. And so I started to voice and find my voice more and more, which was definitely a big thing for me. And but then I started to still want him to change. And he said to me one day, because he's very intuitive, or he could feel everything. He goes, you need to stop doing that. I'm like, what? He's like, you need to stop trying to make me out to be like one of your guy friends. Like meaning like my guy friends that are all into self-development and all of that. Like, this is who I am, and I need you to accept that. And if you want to be with me, like, this is me. And I was like, oh my God, he's absolutely right. Like, the amount of energy that I put out of where I'm thinking that like he needs to change and he's not good enough. And guys, people could feel that. He could feel that from me. He could feel that I was projecting that on him, and that didn't make him want to be intimate with me or love me or play with me or hang out with me. And so sometimes we are putting out energy on a person, and what you're doing is you're trying to cast them out to be something. And so it was a pivotal moment where I had to say, okay, can I accept him as he is right now? And this is similar to accepting your inner child, and 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 focus on me. Can I just love and accept him where he's at? Or I need to leave this relationship. And so, needless to say, I started to accept him. And in accepting him, I had to deal with that I was projecting and that it was me that needed to take responsibility for certain things. But what also happened is because I was coming from compassion and acceptance of him, it gave him the opportunity to choose to see for himself what he wanted to change. And he started to grow the most and make the most change when I stopped projecting on him and I started being the example. And I started looking at where I get to grow and better myself. And so this happens a lot in relationships where we're pointing a finger, where we're thinking that's the person that needs to change. And anytime you're doing that, my mother taught me this. So anytime you point a finger, there's three fingers pointing back at you. And so as difficult as it may be to look at ourselves in that moment and put our ego aside and tell the truth and feel our inner child, and whatever hurt or upset is there, that's the only way that you're going to grow together, is if you focus on your own growth. And he and I would not be engaged right now, would not be where we're at if we didn't make that shift.
Thank you for sharing that. I don't think that is said enough, because you went through it, you're a living example of it, and I went through the same exact thing. So, and she called me out on it so many times. And I was like, what? It's okay. And it took me, I don't know if it took you a little while, but eventually I was
Yes.
like, oh, so what would happen? I'll give an example for people listening. If you do this, I would be reading a spiritual book or a self-development book or something, and it'd be, giving good information. And I would start to think of her and how like this could help her instead of me, or even both. And then I thought that was normal or whatever. And then until I realized, holy crap, I'm projecting my own crap onto her of what I need to really fix about myself or whatever, whatever. And I'm so glad that you were vulnerable enough to share that, because it's exhausting for the other person. And it's exhausting for you too. It's like almost relief when you can do that, when you can actually.
You can't change anyone but yourself. Right. You can't.
Right.
And when we say I love you, or we say like I love my partner, well, are you check in? Are you energetically putting out love? Right. Or are you saying the word I love you, but the energy is I need you to change. I need you to do this. I'm judging you. Because he felt that for me. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so grateful. I have someone that's so in tune with their emotions, that he didn't let that slide by. Yeah. And I got to really learn the gift of that's just being the change, and being that role model, and how much you could inspire your partner with that, and that like how happy you could be when you just tend to yourself, right? And then you stop caring. You're like, okay, if the other person doesn't want to, great, well, I'm living my best life ever, because I'm not putting my happiness based on anybody else but me.
Well, here's the only
the only guarantee is that you are with you till the day you die. Everything else is temporary. So take care of your own garden.
100%. And that's, we talked about this the first half of the podcast, is the best way to parent is to work on you. So obviously the best way to be a husband or wife is to work on you and stop that, putting your stuff on them. So that's great. And by the way, we're talking about our parents earlier and stuff. There are all sorts of qualities that we see in ourselves from our parents, but I think you're talking about it just being, there's good and, not as good, or whatever you want to say, but you're talking about just being yourself, like your own version of you, and not like replicating somebody else, even if it's your parents or anybody else, right?
Becoming aware and having a choice, so that who you're choosing to be is coming from a place of empowerment and not a place of survival. Yeah. So my father being someone that loved, I mean, you could say workaholic, but at the same time, he's also someone that just is passionate and loves what he does. Yeah. And loves his clients. And so what my siblings and I all learned that we're all entrepreneurs. We all have our own businesses.
Cool.
We all love what we do. And so it's like we took that. It's like, okay, keep that. And I'm like, you know, my dad doesn't have the best boundaries on his time. Like he'll answer because he loves what he does so much. He'll be walking, hanging out with us, and he'll answer a client call. And I'm like, Dad, work later. Right. And so like learning, well, that I don't want to take on. I'm gonna have boundaries around my time. Monday through Friday, work. Weekends, that's put away. Evenings, that's put away as an example. So it's getting your power back and being able to choose and create who you want to be and continue to reinvent. Today, April 1st, April Fool's Day, everyone. Who do you want to be? Who do you like? Is there something new that you want to challenge yourself? Is there a new edge about yourself that you want to meet and explore into? So I'm always meeting my edges and saying, what do I want now? What do I dream of now? But I'm able to be there because I'm in creation. I'm not operating from survival, from trying not to be something anymore. And so it's like a garden. You clear out the weeds, you plant flowers. Next season, you're like, you know what? I think I want to do a vegetable garden. And you can. It's the same thing for people to know that once you have the tools to know how to tend to whatever is there, you have your power back. You know yourself as not only the writer, director, producer, and actor, but it's the editor that can continue to edit and live that best Academy Award movie life ever.
Without guilt and without shame, like that just gets washed away when you're in that, and you're in that space and that vibration. That's so cool. I want to honor your time. So I want to ask you one last question here. By the way, what you're saying is like amazingly amazing. I can't wait for my people
Thank you.
to hear this. When you were 18 years old, if you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self anything and she would listen, what's some words of advice or wisdom you would give her?
You are so gifted, loved, and worthy of everything that your heart desires. Because I definitely had lack of major self-confidence and did not feel that, did not have access to that. So yeah.
Beautiful. Let's get specifics. Where can we find information? I know in like 40 days or something, you have a new 90-day course.
Yeah.
Your 90 days is coming up. Where can we find information out about this?
Training camp for the soul.com. And even though the 90-day doesn't kick off for another 40 days, we have pre-coursework. So if someone's like, I want to start preparing for it, I want to get in the energy of it now, you can. And yeah. And then if you want to connect with me, Instagram is where I'm most active, and we have a Freedom Seekers Tribe Facebook group.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Like if you're listening to this and you had any sort of like gut feeling or bodily feeling of this is something that you just got to do, like just break free from your shell or whatever you want to say, go from being limited to unlimited feelings, this, like, check it out, dive in, do something, go to the website, because it means there's a reason you're listening to this. I truly believe that. So thank you for being here, Anat. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Justin. Such a pleasure.
And yeah, that's all she wrote.